Okay, so for this deep dive, you guys sent in Milco Baute's Steps Toward Your Literary Dream,
Yeah.
a practical guide to writing and publishing your book. So like always, we're going to unpack this resource and give you guys the need-to-know info.
Absolutely. And it's for everyone from folks just starting out with like that big idea for a book they've always had to those of you out there, who are maybe already writing and want to level up your skills.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So this guide from Baute, I mean, it really is, like you said, practical. Like it's not just theory, it gets into the nuts and bolts of the whole writing process,
Yes.
from that initial idea all the way to actually holding a finished book in your hand.
Yeah, I think what's so cool about Baute's guide is like right away he makes this point that speaking and writing, they're not the same thing.
Right.
Like, you can be a great speaker, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great writer.
Yeah, just because you can talk doesn't mean you can write.
Totally. But then he says something really encouraging. Like he points out that if you're someone who loves to read, like if you're a passionate reader,
Yeah.
that actually makes the writing process so much easier.
Right, like almost everything we end up putting down on paper comes from what we've already taken in through reading.
It's like everything we express in some way, it's already been influenced by what we've been exposed
Yeah,
to.
it makes you think about like what you're reading
Yeah.
and how that shapes how you express yourself.
And when Baute starts talking about language itself, he's a huge advocate for keeping things clear
Okay.
and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about trying to, sound super smart with all these big words.
Right.
Just get your message across.
You keep it simple, stupid.
Right, exactly. But he's also really big on sticking to basic grammar rules.
Okay.
Like that's non-negotiable.
Right.
But what I thought was interesting is he's totally cool with using colloquial language too.
So like everyday speech.
Yeah, like as long as your grammar is solid, you can use your own natural voice.
Well, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
It's like he's encouraging us to be ourselves. But like you said, you got to have that foundation.
Yeah, you got to know the rules before you can break them, right?
Exactly. And he actually shares a bit about his own experience, learning to write.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And he's super open about it. Like he talks about basically learning by doing, writing more and more, expanding his vocabulary, improving his grammar, both in Spanish and English.
Wow. So he's bilingual.
Yeah. And he even mentions using tools like, Microsoft Word to help with corrections. But he's also quick to point out that, like, technology can only take you so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's not perfect.
Right. Especially with things like, accent marks and stuff like that.
It's a good reminder that you can't just rely on spell check.
For sure. Like, you really got to know the language yourself.
Yeah. You got to put in the work.
Exactly. And so then Baute gets into like his whole approach to writing. And what's interesting is that it's really informed by his own understanding, knowledge, and research.
Okay.
He's like a big documentation guy.
So like evidence-based writing.
Yeah, for sure.
Got it.
And he even brings in his spiritual perspective, which obviously shapes his work on topics like philosophy, politics, religion.
Makes sense.
And he's super transparent about this. Like he acknowledges that his view of truth has this specific, spiritual angle. But he also, respects other viewpoints.
So it's like he's grounded in his beliefs.
Right.
But he's also open to other perspectives.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting balance.
Definitely. It's like he's saying you can be passionate about what you believe, but you also got to be respectful of other people's ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And so, beyond that, like factual research-based style, he also embraces a whole bunch of creative writing styles.
Okay, like what kind of styles?
Oh man, like everything from storytelling to fiction, fantasy, metaphors, allegories, prose, verse rhyming, all that stuff.
No, that's a lot.
It's a lot. And then he even talks about like suspense, intrigue,
Oh,
dialogue-driven narratives. And his whole thing is that like pretty much anything goes as long as your grammar's good and people can understand what you're saying.
So it's like he's setting a foundation, but then he's saying, be creative.
Exactly. Use your imagination.
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then, Baute goes on to talk about his experience as an editor.
Oh, okay.
And he's worked on like 50 books.
50 books? Wow.
I know, it's crazy.
Must have seen it all.
He's seen it all.
Yeah.
From manuscripts that just needed like a little bit of polishing. To some that basically had to be rewritten from scratch.
Wow, that's a huge range.
Yeah, and it really highlights, how important it is to be a good reader and to know your grammar.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to be editing other people's work.
Right. You got to be able to spot those errors and know how to fix them.
Exactly. And speaking of reading,
Yeah.
Baute actually recommends that, before you even start writing a book, you should really immerse yourself in reading.
Especially in the genre that you're interested in.
Exactly. It's like doing your research.
Yeah. You got to know what's already out there, what's working, what's not.
Right. It's like market research, but for books.
Exactly. And then, Baute goes on to talk about the practical side of editing.
Okay.
Like how to actually go about it. And he suggests that, you can either hire an editor.
Which makes sense.
And he actually includes his own contact info in the book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like he's offering his services.
Yeah, if you need help.
That's awesome.
But he also suggests using tools like Microsoft Word.
Okay.
To help catch those mistakes. But what I thought was really interesting is that he brings in this historical perspective.
Oh, really? Like what?
He reminds us that, even Shakespeare had proofreaders.
Wow.
And that the Bible involved scribes who basically acted as editors.
So even the greatest writers had help.
Yeah, it's like this idea that attention to detail and accuracy have always been important.
Right. It's not a new concept.
Exactly. And then Baute really stresses the need to reread and revise your work after you finish that first draft.
Okay, so it's not enough to just review as you go.
Not really. He says that, you need to take a step back, look at the whole thing with fresh eyes.
Makes sense.
And he even shares his own experience, like finding errors in his published books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which led to, revisions and republishing.
So it happens to the best of us.
It happens to everyone. And he also points out that, if you're working with a traditional publisher, those revisions can cost you money.
Right, because they have to go back and reprint everything.
Exactly. So it's really important to catch those mistakes early on.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to be as thorough as possible.
Absolutely. And Baute mentions that he personally has someone else read his work to catch any errors he might have missed.
Oh, that's smart. Like a second set of eyes.
Yeah.
Always helps.
And he also makes a distinction between, immediately correcting typos on self-publishing platforms and charging for more substantial content changes.
Oh, okay. So he recognizes that there's a difference.
Yeah, like typos are one thing.
Right.
But rewriting whole sections is a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, that takes a lot more time and effort.
Exactly. And he really hammers home the point of taking your time during that review process.
Okay.
And he specifically recommends reading the PDF version.
After formatting for self-publishing?
Right, because sometimes those formatting changes can introduce new errors.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Or they can make existing errors more noticeable.
So it's like a final check.
Yeah, make sure everything looks good before you hit publish.
Got it.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Baute introduces his own writing method.
His own personal method.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He claims he can write and publish a book in 24 hours.
24 hours? What?
I know.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
How is that even possible?
So he breaks it down into 3 8-hour sessions.
Okay.
Over 3 days.
3 days of book?
I know.
That's impressive.
It's nuts. But he does say that, this method might not work for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty intense pace.
Yeah. And he also clarifies that a lot of times he's expanding on articles that he's already written.
Oh, so he already has some of the material.
Yeah, it's not like he's starting from scratch every time.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense.
Right, and he described his process as basically just getting everything out of his head and onto paper. But at the same time, he's paying attention to grammar vocabulary.
Okay.
Making sure he's using all the right words, prepositions, conjunctions, all that stuff.
Especially in Spanish.
Yeah, he's really focused on getting it right.
Oh.
And he's also super meticulous about punctuation. He sees it as like these little pauses that help with readability and comprehension.
Right. Punctuation is important.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
And then he's also really deliberate about using paragraph breaks to separate different but related ideas.
So it's like he's got this whole system.
Yeah, it's super organized. And then he breaks down his tips for writing using this method.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so first up, start with a title.
A title, okay.
Yeah, as soon as you have that book idea, jot down a title.
Got it.
Because it's going to serve as like this anchor for your whole project.
Okay, it's like the foundation.
Yeah, and then he suggests creating an index or a table of contents right away.
Even before you've written anything?
Pretty much.
Wow.
It's like creating a blueprint.
Okay, so you know what you're going to cover.
Exactly.
That's smart.
And then next up is writing the preface or introduction.
Okay.
And he says you should use this section to basically explain what the reader can expect. what inspired you to write the book?
Oh.
And even give a little synopsis to hook them in.
So like a little teaser.
Yeah, exactly. And he also mentions that he personally likes to jot down book titles and ideas as they come to him.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah, sometimes those ideas just pop into your head.
Right, and then you forget them.
Exactly, so write them down.
Got it.
And then he also advises saving the acknowledgments and dedications for last.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to avoid distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And he even shares this funny story about receiving incomplete manuscripts from authors.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like they got so caught up in thanking everyone that they forgot to finish the book.
Oh, wow.
So his advice is finish the main content first.
Then worry about the extras.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he gets into this really practical tip about meeting the minimum page requirement.
Okay, what's the minimum?
He sets it at 50 pages.
50 pages, okay.
And he gives a bunch of strategies if you're falling short.
Like what kind of strategies?
Well, you can include front matter.
Like the title page, copyright stuff?
Yeah, and maybe a dedication or table of contents.
Okay.
You can adjust the formatting,
Like the margins and font size.
Right.
Ah.
Add some images, a biography, a final note, a bibliography.
Okay.
He even mentions using a smaller pocketbook format.
To increase the page count.
Exactly. It's all about hitting that 50-page mark.
Interesting. So it's like there are ways to make it work.
Yeah, you can get creative.
I like that.
And then he talks about expanding on shorter pieces.
Okay, like articles or essays.
Yeah, to turn them into full-fledged books.
Mm-hmm.
And he suggests using online resources for nonfiction or drawing inspiration from similar stories for fiction.
Okay, but I'm guessing there's a catch.
Oh, yeah, you got to credit your sources.
Of course.
Always give credit where credit is due.
Right, it's about building on existing ideas but doing it ethically.
Exactly. And then he gets really specific about formatting dialogue.
Okay, that's always tricky.
Yeah, so he gives clear rules about using a dash or a colon, followed by quotation marks, and making sure each character's dialogue starts on a new line.
Okay.
He even suggests maybe bolding the character's name to make it super clear who's speaking.
Oh, that's helpful.
Right, it's all about making the dialogue easy to follow.
Exactly.
And then he gives this great tip about reducing page count without sacrificing readability.
Okay, how do you do that?
So he suggests using indentation instead of extra spaces between paragraphs,
Okay.
except in dialogue,
Right.
and then adjusting the margins.
So it's like maximizing the space.
Yeah, and he also points out that, if you're self-publishing, you can format everything yourself in Word, then convert it to a PDF.
Which saves money.
Exactly.
That's smart.
And then finally in this My Writing Method section, he talks about publishing and revising.
Okay.
He mentions the option of splitting longer works into multiple volumes,
Oh, interesting.
but he doesn't really recommend that for shorter pieces.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he also talks about how easy it is to make revisions on self-publishing platforms like KDP.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, you can update your book anytime.
It's nice to have that flexibility.
Absolutely. And he wraps up this section with this really powerful call to action.
What's that?
He says, start writing today.
I love that.
Right? Like, just do it.
Yeah.
And he encourages people to, set aside specific time for writing and to focus on the joy of the process.
Not just the money.
Right? Like, writing should be something you enjoy.
Absolutely.
It's about creating something meaningful.
Yeah, leaving a legacy.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into Baute's guide, I think it's clear that he offers like a ton of practical advice
Yeah.
and encouragement for aspiring authors.
Absolutely. Like he breaks down the entire process.
Yeah, from start to finish.
That's like a roadmap for writers.
Exactly. And he really emphasizes, the importance of reading, understanding how language works, the need for revision.
Yeah.
And he gives all these practical tips for writing and formatting.
It's like a toolkit for success.
And he also encourages you to find your own writing method.
Your own voice.
Yeah. Be yourself.
But make sure your grammar's good.
Always.
Right.
And, Baute actually goes into even more detail in the later sections of the book.
Oh, really? Like what kind of stuff?
Well, he has a whole section on correcting grammatical errors,
Okay.
like common mistakes people make. And he covers everything from the proper use of and to paragraph themes, but
Oh, wow.
capitalization, punctuation placement.
It's like a grammar crash course.
Yeah. And he even talks about how to format dialogue correctly and how to avoid repetition.
Yeah.
How to deal with poorly structured sentences.
Got it.
And he even touches on using colloquial language.
So he goes back to that.
Yeah, he's all about finding that balance.
Right.
And then he has this whole section on commas.
Commas.
I know.
They can be tricky.
They're so tricky. And he goes through like all the rules,
Okay.
when to use them, when not to use them. And he even shares some funny examples of how comma misuse can lead to misunderstandings.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
I can imagine.
And then he also has a section on different types of literary works.
Okay.
Like novels, short stories, poetry, haiku academic articles.
Wow, so he covers a wide range.
He covers everything.
It's like a literary encyclopedia.
Yeah. And then he goes into tones and writing styles.
Okay, like formal, informal.
Yeah, and humorous, melancholic, poetic.
Yeah.
All sorts of different approaches.
So he helps you find your style.
Exactly. And then he even gives specific tips for writing different genres.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Oh, man. Like true stories, short stories, science fiction, romance drama, suspense, detective novels, children's stories, instruction manuals.
Wow. He's thought of everything.
He even talks about screenplays.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then he has this section called 10 Writing Tricks to Make Your Story Shine.
Okay, what are the tricks?
So he covers things like clarifying your core concept, writing strong opening lines, developing believable characters,
got it,
choosing an effective narrator, writing meaningful dialogue, establishing a vivid setting, structuring a compelling plot.
So like all the elements of a good story.
Exactly. And then he also includes some advice specifically for new writers.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And he even shares some writing tips from famous authors like Ray Bradbury and Stephen King.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like getting advice from the masters.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then finally, he gives a really detailed guide to editing and publishing on Amazon.
Okay, so he walks you through the whole process.
Yeah, like step by step.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. So all in all, I think Baute's guide is an incredible resource for anyone who's serious about writing and publishing a book.
Yeah, it's super comprehensive.
Like having a mentor in a book.
Absolutely. And considering Baute's emphasis on that initial idea and the whole journey of writing.
Yeah.
Here's a final thought for you guys. What's that one story or idea that keeps coming back to you?
That's been nagging at you.
Yeah, the one that you just can't shake.
Maybe it's time to finally put it down on paper.
Just like Baute says, start writing today.
You never know where it might lead.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
Until next time, happy writing, everyone.
See you later.